Drive-by Saviours really alludes to the big upper echelon suits, the power brokers of the world, really like the World Bank types, who maybe with good intentions come up with schemes that they think will save other people in the world, like Boomy, people whose names they don't know, people who they've never met, but they decide what is best for them, and they come up with schemes and move money around and put it in places where they think it's appropriate. Never do they really find out the outcome of what they're doing. They don't see the impacts of their decisions on those people's lives. So in a sense, they're drive-by saviors. They're like driving by in a car and throwing change at people to try to solve problems that they perceive that they haven't even confirmed are really problems. So it's that kind of mentality about helping people, and to a lesser extent it applies to all of us as individuals, people in the helping professions like social workers, who also with very good intentions, but sometimes get caught up in those schemes and try to help people, but don't really understand the people they're trying to help, don't necessarily learn about them. So I'm not saying all social workers are like that, but it can happen, it does happen. That's kind of one of the major themes of the novel, so that's what that alludes to. I think the book reflects some of my own ecological concerns, but not in a very overt or obvious way. But the book is a lot about communities and how these differ in the modernized kind of Western rich world versus more indigenous cultures or southern cultures like the island of Rilaka in the novel. So the big cities where things are in Western cultures where things are individualized, and it's kind of like being lonely in a crowd. You have all these people commuting to work, going to all these things. They might even have lots of friends, but it's not a community. You don't feel a sense of community, and they're kind of lonely and trying to find ways to find each other, but they can't, versus the automatic community that Boomy grows up in, and which are more traditional, and they do things in a more traditional way. Spirituality is woven into their lives very naturally, and so they tend to be more sustainable. But even those people are being encroached on by this modern world, and the people of Rilaka suffer from that, in that the fish that they rely on for livelihood at the beginning of the novel disappear, and they have to adapt and change their way of doing things, but still what they do is rely on their community and their interconnectedness with each other and with the land and with history and stories to survive and move forward. So it's kind of a contrast between two different worlds, but all through a very ecological lens. I think Drive-by Saviours is a very Canadian story in that it deals with the issue of immigration, and this is a country that is largely made up of immigrants, either who have come recently or generations ago, and those two groups make up a huge part of the population and often struggle with one another in various ways. And I think that's an undertold part of Canadian culture. We often get the kind of mainstream, white, long-time Canadian story. Occasionally we get really great immigrant stories, but the interaction of the two I haven't seen as much in Canadian literature. So I think it is a very Canadian story, but it's a bit of a new theme.